This podcast dives into some real talk that might be triggering to some listeners. Viewer discretion is advised.
So, Dintang, it's your girl Maz Not Hot, aka Chippy Yappy Tori. Welcome back to the final episode of our favorite podcast, Clock It! The Down South edition brought to you by Staying Alive Foundation. I did say it's the last episode, but remember, guys, we always bring in the heat. Coming up,
men must cry.
Men must cry, yeah.
The fact that men are not given the opportunity to be vulnerable. You're speaking about vulnerability. They're not, it's seen as a weakness.
It takes people such a long time to actually open up about their struggles,
Young girls, they don't want to go to the clinic and ask for these things because they feel judged by the nurses.
The most people that are affected by HIV, if you look at the stats, it's mostly young girls.
The Down South mic amplifies your takes on some grown talk.
People are used to taking action more when women are being abused than men.
I think we can reduce HIV stigma by everyone accepting the fact that some people live with certain viruses.
leaking someone's nudes is abuse.
Yes.
And it's not just abuse, it's illegal.
Why don't you put out the lights, boy? Why don't you turn the lights out? And that's why they call it down south, boy. That's why they call it down south. Why don't you put out the lights, boy? Why don't you turn the lights out?
You already know on this season, we dropped some hot topics. We shared some information on GBV, mental health, HIV, and PrEP. So today, I just want to look at all of those things together as a collective. That's why I'm going to talk to Stephanie Sandows and Dr. Natasché Daniels.
She doesn't need any introduction. Stephanie Sandows unpacks the Staying Alive Foundation and MTV Shuga Down South, while Dr. Daniels helps us unpack the heavy topics and guides us on the path to healing.
Ladies, welcome to Clock It! Yes! I love that. You guys look so beautiful. You're so radiant. I love that. Steph, it's so good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
How are you feeling?
A little bit nervous, but excited. Really excited to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here on the show today and to get to hear more information about you as Steph and as the co-chair and board member of the Staying Alive Foundation. That's home cloud. Go ahead, again. Dr. Daniels, it's so good to have you here today.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here.
It's lovely to see you. Listen, I want to hear about you and what you do. Tell us more about what you do and why you're here with us today.
All right. Well, I'm a medical doctor. At the moment, I'm in general practice.
Okay.
But before that, I also had my fair share of rural medicine before I moved to the private life. And I think through that experience, I really learned a lot about community. It was difficult, but I really learned a lot about community and the issues that affect our community, And being today here on the show is just so empowering as well, to learn more, to share information, to teach others as well. So, yeah.
Okay, I love that. As I said, we're doing things a little bit different today. So I want us to take a look at what Staying Alive Foundation is and what they are about. Yo, that was so inspiring. I'm getting chills. Definitely. You know what, Steph, from being on our screens to being the co-chair of the Staying Alive Foundation, I want you to talk to me about that, your role.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes we have this running joke at the foundation that they felt really bad that my character died. So the higher ups were like, let's make it up to her by making her a board member. That's not really what happened. I think, when I played the role of Tulu, it was the first time that I, as an actor, had this lead role. And it was kind of one of those things where when you're a part of Down South, or when you're part of Shuga in any form or way or capacity, it's impossible not to be impacted or to be changed. And so whilst I was doing my character research and work for my character Tulu, there was so much information that I was learning. And so I then became sort of this advocate and this ambassador for the work that we were doing because there was so much research I was doing. And I was just really passionate about what MTV Staying Alive was doing. And so I constantly, I guess, was pushing a lot of core messaging that was happening. And I guess, that led me to sort of being on the board, and then subsequent to that, co-chair.
Oh, what a journey. Yeah. And Doc, I want to hear from you. How do you coexist with organizations like the Staying Alive Foundation?
Well, you know what? First of all, goosebumps.
Yeah.
That's such an amazing initiative. And, I think in today's age where social media is absolutely huge, you have to learn how to speak our youth's language, and social media is one of them. And to use it as a tool to educate, I think it's brilliant. I mean, just scrolling on social media, I learn so much,
Yeah.
So you can just think the impact that it can have on our youth growing up, just in terms of breaking the stigma. They learn things on social media and then they bring it to us and they ask questions about it. So many days you will hear, oh, Doc, I saw this on Facebook, or I saw this on Twitter or TikTok, and then you're there to guide them. But it's so nice to see this creative style of education, because it really impacts people and it keeps them captivated, So I really love that, and that's how we basically just coexist.
Yeah, no, you know what? Every time I hear about social media, it's like put in a negative way. That social media, bad.
Yeah.
But it's good to hear that it actually does help, and it does help to put the word out there and have a positive impact on the youth.
No, 100% it does.
Now, I want us to unpack mental health, right? Steph, you've taken the mental health challenge as a part of the campaign, right? What motivated that decision?
I think as a foundation, we very quickly realized and recognized that very seldomly does one thing affect young people or an individual in isolation, right? It's almost like very interconnected.
Okay.
And so, yes, it's interwoven. So you address HIV/AIDS, but then inevitably there's going to be, how does that impact your mental health? How does stigma impact your mental health? Or you start speaking about gender-based violence, and then these worlds, they are interwoven. And so it became our responsibility to figure out the best way to not just address something as one thing, but to rather look at the person as connected and having an ecosystem almost of different parts of your life, right?
Oh, okay.
So nobody just has this one thing that impacts them. It's usually like different parts of our lives that are interwoven. And so how do we look at the individual or the young person holistically instead of only this issue that they might be going through or facing?
Yeah, because usually it's a lot.
Yes.
Okay, so Dr. Tash, I want you to tell. Is it okay if I call you Dr. Tash?
Please do.
I feel like we're sisters now.
We are.
I want to know from you, how do we bring light into the mental health issues that we have? How do we raise awareness and put it out there?
Sure. This is actually such a loaded question, if I could say that. And there's so many ways that we can tackle and answer this question. We could look at it at an individual level, all right? And I think that's important, to look at it individually, as a community, as your families, and then obviously as a country, because it is a crisis in our country. And as Steph was saying, things don't exist in isolation. There is always a crossover.
Yeah.
Conversations like this, the Staying Alive Foundation, to bring awareness to people, to talk about it more, to break the stigma. I think there is such a shyness or embarrassment when you're going through a difficult time. Oftentimes it takes people such a long time to actually open up about their struggles, But I also think it comes to a point where we need to be open and vulnerable with each other, because if I know that you are going through a difficult time, it makes me feel safe to share my experiences with you as well, So I think we should stop hiding and be more open about it in our society. In our homes especially, culture comes to play as well. A lot of parents and families don't really believe in mental health, You know, there's a stigma around it. There's a belief around it. And that belief extends into our community.
Are you dropping facts?
I mean, and then we go into our schools as well. This is something that should be taught at our schools. We should highlight it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there should be support systems available. And there shouldn't be a stigma about it, but like, oh, you're going to go and seek help.
Yeah.
No. We should actually support and encourage each other. You know, I saw you're not doing well.
Yeah.
Maybe let's go and talk, or can I talk to you, or can I take you to somebody who can speak to you, who can help you, know. I think we need to open those conversations with our friends and our families, you know, because oftentimes we do it too late.
Yeah.
All right.
100%.
So it's a loaded question, but I think starting with raising awareness, speaking more openly, being more vulnerable with people is a very good place to start.
And may I add to that? I think also important is partnerships.
Exactly.
Such as, you know, the partnerships that Staying Alive Foundation has with different stakeholders, with whether it's your medical professionals, whether it's young people, whether it's social media, just having these partnerships with schools, you know, with the education system, with communities, you know, with on the ground activists, having sort of this community of people that work together and partner together to recognize that there's an issue, and now how do we go about giving young people tools to deal with these issues that they're facing.
100%.
Oh, okay, that's lovely. That's really lovely.
Yeah, and to recognize that it is a real problem. You know, sometimes we don't recognize that, and I think we should give people the space to do that. And support goes such a long way.
Yeah,
you know,
it
guys,
really
when you feel like you're not alone, you can really go far. But when you feel like you're alone, you actually hide and you isolate, and things just become worse and worse.
You have heard from our guests, but now I want to hear from you in the streets. So let's check out the Down South mic.
I do not think men are protected when it comes to GBV, because in most cases in our communities and societies, and like, people are used to taking action more when women are being abused than men. And when a man speaks out and says he's being abused by his wife or his spouse, it isn't taken seriously. They make a mockery out of it. They laugh. You understand? So it looks like he's like the man himself is unable to run his household. So yeah.
I've traveled the world 3 times because I've never had a girlfriend in my life. I've used all my money to catch flights and go to different countries because I haven't spent my money on a person that doesn't care about me.
I can agree with a lot of what I think the first gentleman that was speaking about, the fact that men are not given the opportunity to be vulnerable. You're speaking about vulnerability. They're not, you know, it's seen as a weakness, whereas actually vulnerability is such a strength, right?
Yes.
And I think that as a society, we still have a long way to go. And I think in 2025, I hope we're making progress in saying to our young men or even our boys that it's okay. Of course, you should be able to cry if something impacts you and affects you in a certain way. So breaking through those, you know, kind of stigmas and stereotypes is something that's important. But I agree with a lot of what they're saying, and a lot of the fact that that's why we do the work that we do, so that you can see through our characters in Shuga, and you know that it's okay. It's okay for a guy to cry. It's okay for men to show their feelings and emotions. Because how else am I going to know? Like how else am I going to?
They don't be communicating, girl.
That's what I'm saying. You know, it's very unfair for us to have an expectation for men to respond in a certain way or whatever, and then you don't give them the opportunity to actually communicate. And then we're going to turn around and also say, you know, when they don't express their feelings, then that's also so what is it that we actually want our men and boys to do?
They're in trouble, though.
You know? Yeah.
Doug, do you agree?
You know what? Where do I start?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the first guy, you know, and he was speaking about gender-based violence. And if we just look at the definition of gender-based violence, right? It's a violence against the opposite gender. And I think today we really focus a lot on women. And, you know, there is a crisis in our country at the moment, definitely. But in society today, what we have done, right, we have normalized male dominance and toxic masculinity, right? So we have painted the perfect picture of what a man should be like.
Yeah.
And when somebody drifts away from that, we are all going to come in with our opinions, all right? Or when they don't act in a certain way, for example, like he was saying, like what if he's going through a difficult time and he speaks up about it? He's not really scared about speaking up. He's scared about the stigma that's going to be attached to him. Now he's seen as not a man. So what we have to do is we have to really think about what we think is a man, you know, because in society we have the wrong picture, all right? And as for catch flights and not feelings,
Well, he said what he said.
he said what he said,
Catch
right?
flights, not feelings.
That's literally.
It sounded personal there. I'm not going to lie.
You know, I think there's a lot over there that he's probably been through. You know, somebody doesn't just make that decision once off. It comes a long way, and you'll even come find that it came from his childhood. Even if I tell you my story, you are never going to know the depth of it. All right? You know, we all have our own story, and even when I tell you it, I'm not going to tell you all of it, right? Right? And that's the same thing with him, you know. And I think if we just give him that space where he can actually feel vulnerable and feel what he needs to feel, you know, I think that's where healing can start. You know, men must cry.
Men must cry, yeah.
And I think women, we cry. I cry a lot, cry for everything. 2 cries a day, minimum, you know, at least, you know, to keep it level. But what I find, especially in practice now that I've been seeing patients, I will always say to them, you know, if you don't deal with your emotions, all right, or with your stress, or with your anxiety, whatever, right, it will find its way to manifest physically, all right? If you're going to keep everything inside, it's going to find its way to manifest physically, all right? Women are more open, we speak more, we have girlfriends, we have friendship, you know, it's lovely. But men don't have that all the time, you know, so there's no safe space for them to process those emotions. Men should cry.
Why do you think they don't have those spaces?
Like I said earlier, it's because of the picture that we've painted on what a man should be, you know. But what we've actually done is just created this generation of men who don't feel safe to speak about their problems, who hold it in, and it starts to manifest physically and emotionally later.
And because I must make sure I wear my co-chair hat, we actually have a documentary called What Makes a Man.
Oh,
Yes, we do. Lovely.
And in it, I think Ayanda's been on the podcast, you know, and he goes out and explores, you know, and does this documentary on what are the, you know, misconceptions and the stereotypes. And I really would encourage all the listeners or viewers to check out that documentary because it speaks to exactly what you're speaking about. Like, you know, we have to, as a society, unpack the misconceptions, the ideas with the cultural, societal, and all kinds of ways, you know, and how, first of all, do we define, you know, manhood or being a man, and then only can we start sort of the healing journey and processing all of that. But yes, we also have a documentary called What Makes a Man.
I love that. I mean, speaking to you ladies makes me realize that there are tools and there are things that are placed out there to help us break down those stigmas, you understand? I mean, the foundation, the documentary, I'm so happy to hear that. And people speaking like you, Doc, who are speaking on these topics and these subjects. Guys, we must stop shaking when it comes to mental health. We must stop being a little bit, you know, we must start speaking about them freely and expressing ourselves. And that also is one thing that helps break down the stigmas. And that is one thing that helps other people open up as well.
Exactly. You know, you'll see people freely talk about their sugar or about their high blood pressure, but you won't hear it about mental health. And that's because of the stigma attached to it, you know. But that's the purpose of today.
Yes. Definitely. We've unpacked some serious, very important conversations here, but now I want to talk about HIV and PrEP. I really want us to talk about this because it is so important. Guys, we are in South Africa and we are living with the highest stat of HIV, which is so shocking to me because I was under the impression that we're fine. There's so much that's given to us in terms of information. There are shows, the Staying Alive Foundation, and the stats have doubled somehow. You know, why do you think that has happened, Doc?
So also a loaded question. There's a lot of stigma attached around HIV, right? HIV and AIDS. And in today's age, there really shouldn't be, because we have come so far with HIV treatment, all right? There's even a new narrative. People don't say like, you know, that I have diabetes, I have asthma. People don't say I have HIV.
Sure.
Instead, we've changed the narrative now to say I am living with HIV because HIV is so treatable.
Yes.
You know, it is so manageable, more than so many of these other comorbidities that people have today. All right. But I think there's so much stigma attached to it. And yes, I do think there was a desensitization at some point.
Yeah.
COVID as well impacted us. During that time, you know, testing went down. So I think there's a lot to do with why our stats have actually doubled and we haven't improved on it.
Okay. And Steph, how is Staying Alive Foundation like helping with that?
I think by continuing to do what we do, by meeting young people where they're at, and by, I think, engaging with key partners and stakeholders, because I go again back to partnerships, because we can't hide from the fact that sometimes there are certain political decisions that are made at the higher ups or in a completely different country that we don't have to go into detail about, but it has a ripple effect, you know, and that effect usually impacts those who are on the ground first, you know, making certain changes to policies and those kinds of things do have an impact. But I think organizations like the Staying Alive Foundation, it's by us just continuing to hold the space and to carry the torch, by not allowing these external forces to kind of, you know, have us just throw our hands up in the air and say, well, we give up, you know, because if we give up and if we don't continue to do the work, right, then we'll be even worse off.
And
you
the
know,
stigma will just persist.
And the stigma will just persist. So we continue to persevere. We continue to move forward. We continue to create the content. We continue to create the partnerships. We continue to engage on all levels, right? To make sure that we bring in the education that young people need, or that people need to destigmatize a lot of these things and to address, you know, desensitizing of the issue at hand. But we still have a long way to go. And in a lot of ways, sometimes it is sad, because like you're saying, there's so much progress and improvement that's, especially, you know, pharmaceuticals and so forth, you know, that it shouldn't be that way. But it just goes to show how much more work there is still to be done.
Now clock that.
100%, because it's like we're taking 3 steps forward and 5 steps back the whole time, even though we're coming so far with HIV treatment. The problem is within our country and within our policy, as Steph has said, you know, and also just about what people know and what their beliefs are about HIV, you know. So really going, because if we think about it, the most people that are affected by HIV, if you look at the stats, it's mostly young girls and men and adolescents. All right.
I didn't know that.
So those are the most highest groups that are impacted with HIV, or who test positive, if I could say it that way. So we really need to focus our attention over there and really remodeling our youth and how they view HIV. All right. It's not what it used to be in the past. It's not taboo. It needs to be spoken about more. You know, so we really need to target that belief system and just change it for the future. It's not going to happen overnight, but
With the rising stats, right, what can we do about that as people, as individuals? What can we do to make that just go like that?
So, you know, PEP and PrEP are very important things that people need to know about, all right? Or you will find that people will present to a facility and it's too late, all right? Because this also has to happen in a certain time frame. I also think that with PrEP, people are sometimes scared or shy and embarrassed to speak about it. And that's our fault partially. PrEP is an effective way to prevent HIV, all right? And we need to teach the youth about this, all right? It's so important, you know, if we just look at the high risk groups, that being the young girls, all right? But we also have to think about, men who have sex with men, transgender individuals, people who are using IV drug users, sex workers, all right? Those are all high-risk individuals, and they would benefit a lot from PrEP, and we need to be open about that conversation. When you are counseling a patient, all right, anything about sexual health, about contraception, about pregnancy, PEP and PrEP should form part of that conversation as well. You should bring it in there as well, so people are made aware of it. Because I think if you ask a lot of people, they aren't aware of PEP and PrEP. True.
Okay, I know. I hear that.
So pre-exposure and post-exposure prophylaxis is both available. Yeah.
And I mean, we have had, when we would conduct our research, before doing an episode, we have had young people sort of tell us, especially in your more rural or certain areas where, like going to the clinic, where young girls, they don't want to go to the clinic and ask for these things because, the nurses, they feel judged by the nurses. And so we have to try and overcome and advocate for those kinds of things, because now we're not actually helping the situation if we're bringing our own personal, judgment views and stuff into what this young person is actually. It's a good thing that they're wanting to, take their health into their own hands, right? And so, like you're saying, it should be part of the conversation and not kind of a moment of
judgment
or discipline or lecture or whatever that case might be, because that is what young people tell us. When you say, well, why don't you go and get, I think, even just condoms or whatever? No, because the nurse, and then they're afraid that the nurse might go and tell their parents that they're having sex, and so all those kinds of things play a role, because you might find in the community that they live in the same area or they know the parents and so on.
And I want to know, as Staying Alive Foundation, how have you placed yourself in the community to send that message across to, especially young people?
Well, one thing is we have a peer education program. Okay. And so the peer education program basically uses MTV Shuga, and uses this as tools, right, to raise up peer educators in the communities. And then they use the Shuga messaging to teach their peers. That's why it's called peer education. And you find it very effective, because now it's not like, back in the day when it was kind of like, like you were being scolded or, but it's actually your peers and now you are opening dialogue for transparency and vulnerability, and you are able to use entertainment and edutainment, that's got all this important messaging, key messaging that's weaved into it, and now you can create the safe space to speak about these things. And so I think our peer education program is extremely important to the work that we do in these communities. And then also taking that same messaging and engaging, I'm going to say it again, with key partners like faith groups, community leaders, having those conversations, which we do, to say, can we have a dialogue on how we can coexist for the betterment of society, and constantly having those kinds of conversations is what we're very focused on.
I love what you guys are about. I'm bringing my CV, so you must hire me. Okay? Bring. And one thing I want to hear from both of you, when we say sexual health, what are we really referring to, Doc?
Okay, so I think let's bring it back a bit. Let's think about health, right? And if I had to say what is health to you, you would think of it holistically. Your emotional health, your mental health, your physical health. The same with sexual health, all right? I want you to think of it as the same way. It's a state of physical, emotional, and mental well-being. And furthermore, it's also about respect. It's about safety. It's also about pleasure. All right, it's about consent. It's about your mental wellness and how that relates to your reproductive health. So it's quite a broad topic as well, but I think we can't just see it as this physical thing, all right? Because sex is not just a physical act. It's definitely emotional as well, So we have to see it that way as well.
Oh, okay.
What is it?
No, you're clocking it.
I'm clocking it.
How do you want to clock it for us?
I'm clocking it the way she clocked it.
Okay, no,
yes.
that's
no,
easy.
Definitely not as one thing and one thing only, right? Is to really look at holistically what is sexual health, and it refers to the well-being holistically.
These conversations are coming in hot. Let's take the subject to the streets, and here is the Down South mic.
I think we can reduce HIV stigma by everyone accepting the fact that some people live with certain viruses and certain illnesses. It's going to be easier for us to reduce the stigma because at the end of the day, we're all humans and we all suffer from different things.
The reason why Abantu, they decide to hold back is mainly because of lack of trust, right? If I go to a person and tell a person about, okay, man, this is my HIV status, right? Then I come to you, I confide in you because I trust you, right? Then the next thing that is going to happen is that should we have a little bit of a misunderstanding or a conflict that is going to happen between the two of us, the next thing that you decide to do is that you're going to go and expose that about me, right? Whereas you know that is something so sacred to me, something that I would love for it not to be known by everyone. So that's the reason why people are sort of afraid or don't see the need of going to people, reaching out to people and say that, hey man, can you please help me out here and there, because we know that there is no solidarity, people are not united, you see, those kind of things.
The streets are definitely talking. Doc, what do you think?
Sure. I'm thinking about what that last gentleman said and how trust plays such an important role. When you're disclosing your status to somebody, you're really revealing something so vulnerable about yourself. And it's so important that we respect that and we respect people's autonomy, to not go and make that information our own. I think that also creates an atmosphere of fear, right, and shame. And we shouldn't be doing that, okay? We should be encouraging people to know their status, definitely. The word should be, if you know your status, you're empowered. It's a good thing to know your status, all right? But we should not shame people if their status is not the same as ours, all right? It should definitely not be that way because it's just encouraging an atmosphere of fear, and we don't want that at all.
100%. I always say, transparency and trust are different sides of the same coin. Like if you're going to be transparent, then there needs to be a level of trust, and that trust must be, it must be respected. So I think if somebody is going to disclose, and rightfully so, that we should be able to protect that and not go off and, if we're upset about something, disclose someone's status without thinking through it. So,
Profound. These conversations are definitely coming in hot. But now it's time to cool it down a little bit. So let's play some games. Today we are playing Dilemma Drawer. So, ladies, how the game works is that I'm going to read out a scenario for you, right? And then you'll tell me whether you agree or not. So, yes or nah, okay? And I want you guys at home to engage with me. Definitely play the game with us using the hashtag #ClockItPodcast, #yes, and #no. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, the first one is GBV and consent. Sex is a relationship duty, whether you want to or not.
No. Nope.
Yeah,
No.
Strong no.
No. Big no and strong no.
But don't women feel like that in relationships?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I think it depends on your partner as well, and society, what society believes a relationship should look like. But ultimately, it should lie with the individual and your choice.
Yes.
And when you make a choice, it should be an informed choice.
Okay.
So it should be informed consent, all right? Not just consent. So informed consent means that you know everything. You know the risks. You know the advantages, the disadvantages, and what's going to happen if you do it. It's also important to note that people can withdraw their consent. Maybe you want to do something and then it goes a little bit further and you decide no. It's important that we respect that no.
And you're allowed to.
Yes,
At
always.
any point and at any stage,
Always.
withdraw that consent.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Let's go to our next one. It's HIV stigma. You can always tell if someone has HIV just by looking at them.
No.
And no one should think like that.
Not at all.
Not at all.
No one should think like that.
Not at all.
There's no way. And if you are still thinking that way, please change.
You must watch our podcasts.
Yeah,
You must watch
and
our
listen.
Yeah, and clock it.
I mean, it goes back to what you were saying, living with, meaning,
Exactly.
you could have very healthy, there's no way you can, tell. So we need to kill that stigma right now.
Immediately.
I have patients who are so well controlled on their medication, you would never say.
Yeah.
They even forget that they have HIV or that they are living with HIV
I love
because it is so well controlled.
Okay. Our next one is PrEP myths. PrEP is for anyone who wants protection, no judgment.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, full stop.
All right.
No judgment.
Yes. The next one is mental health stigma. People who go to therapy are crazy.
No.
Guys,
No.
let's stop this whole thing.
We were literally just speaking about it now.
Yes. No, definitely not. In fact, if you go to therapy, like, kudos to you for, taking control of your mental health and making sure that you are the best version of yourself.
Exactly.
That is a good thing.
Yeah, and taking those steps to work through it.
Yes.
To unpack and to work through it, not just to hide away or to take a tablet and think it's going to solve all the problems.
Yeah. Okay.
The world will be better if more of us went to therapy.
Okay. The next one is GBV and silence. Gossiping about someone's abuse helps them heal.
No.
In what
How?
way?
In what way? Because anything we do, we gotta ask ourselves, is it hurtful? Is it harmful? Is it helping the person? If you're gonna be gossiping about it, why not rather try and reach out and help, by speaking to the person and by getting them the necessary help or finding out how you can help them. Then gossiping is not going to do anything for the person or for the situation. Gossiping is never helpful.
Yeah,
Actually.
never.
It's just going to actually add fire to the fuel because you've got this vulnerable person who already sometimes doesn't even know that they're in that type of situation, right? They've been manipulated and coerced so much that they're not even aware of it. And now you are out there gossiping and spreading stories as if, come on.
It's not helping anyone.
It's not helping my situation.
Not helping anyone. Okay, the next one is HIV testing. Testing regularly is self-love. Yes. I want to know about that. I want to know how often should one test?
All right, so you can actually test as much as you want, all right? But there are guidelines available. I think it's important to know your status. And when your status has changed, for example, if you have a new sexual partner, all right, then it's important before to go and find out what both of your status is, all right? And then to regularly check thereafter, all right? If you're somebody who's not sexually active or you haven't been exposed, because sex is not the only way that one is exposed to HIV, right? So if you haven't had an exposure and you know your status, it's not really necessary to test again, all right? But if things have changed, it's important that you always go and have good health-seeking behavior, So, yeah.
Now, Doc, hold up. What do you mean by that? What other ways can we contract HIV?
All right, so everybody knows that you can get HIV through unprotected sex, right? Whether it be vaginally or anally, right? But there are other ways as well. Even though the risk, the transmission rate is much lower, it is still a risk. And it's important that people know this so that, again, they can either seek PEP or PrEP and do regular testing. So what one needs to know is what is an infectious fluid, like what type of fluid actually carries the HIV virus, right? So obviously we all know blood and then sexual fluids as well, but also things like pleural fluid, pericardial fluid, CSF fluid. So all of those also carry a certain amount of HIV in it, all right? So if somebody comes into contact with that on open skin, that is considered an exposure. Even if it's low, it's still an exposure and you would qualify for PEP, all right? Other ways as well is, for example, think about IV drug users, all right? People who share needles, they often share and reuse needles a lot. And that is also another way that people can be exposed to HIV, all right? And even doctors or people who work like in high-risk environments, you know, if there was an injury at work and somebody maybe coughed up blood and it was you had a cut over here and the blood was coughed up on you. Do you see? So there's actually quite a lot of other ways, all right? Even though the transmission risk or rate is lower, it is still there. So it is important to know your status, to regularly test, and to actively seek PrEP or PEP when needed.
I got that.
Does that answer your question?
Yes,
okay.
It does. Yes, it does.
Awesome.
Our next one is online harassment. Leaking someone's nudes is abuse.
Yes.
And it's not just abuse, it's illegal.
Yeah.
Don't do that. It's a crime.
Do not do that. And also, actually, my character, Tulu, there was footage that was leaked that I think Saul had taken some secret video footage of her, and it really impacted her as well. And ultimately, I guess led to her dying in the story. So it can have a massive impact on the person. So you don't want to do that.
And that
it's a
actually
crime.
happens in real life. Like a real life story.
Yes.
Okay. We have relationship power. It says controlling who your partner sees equals to love.
No. Controlling who your partner sees, like as in other friendships and stuff?
Whoever they see.
Oh, no.
equals
No,
to
that's
love.
toxic.
That is really toxic.
There's a very fine line between control and care.
And care. Or having a conversation about it. Or not, making sure that we actually, talking about it and not really that sounds a bit more controlling.
Toxic. All right. The next one is PrEP or peer pressure. Stopping PrEP to fit in is the power move.
The opposite way. The opposite. Starting PrEP. Okay, that's the real power move.
All right, I got that. I know now. The last one, guys. Oh, I'm always so sad. It's healing and self-worth. Walking away and choosing yourself is power.
Mandala.
Clock that. Yo, that game was definitely fun. But guys, do you believe that is the last game of the season? I am so sad about that. Now it's time to say goodbye. I don't like goodbyes. I don't like goodbyes. And just because I'm saying goodbye, it doesn't mean that I don't want to hear from you still. Always, always, always use our hashtag #ClockItPodcast to communicate with us on social media, because you know I love hearing from you. Yo, we've learned so much. We have unpacked so much. And thanks to the Staying Alive Foundation, guys, we've had this podcast and this platform to speak about real things. But right now, it's time to say goodbye. That is me, Man's Not Hot, aka Chipiapitori, clocking out.
The Clock It podcast is guided by health experts to keep the convo safe and empowering. For more on HIV, PrEP, GBV, and mental health support, follow the link below. It may be over for the podcast, but you can continue the dialogue on our socials